Welcome, everybody. Nice to see you all here today to talk about the relationship between breathing and health. So a little bit about me. I'm Robert Litman. I've been teaching breathing for close to 30 years. Started in 1988, doing some body work. The Dugan French Approach to Somatic Pattern Recognition was my first introduction in the lineage of Dr. Ida Rolf, and working with people in their ability to be able to have the capacity to breathe. And how I really deeply got into this work was that I had a daughter who's now 50 who was a severe asthmatic. And I was very concerned for her health, as a father would be, many trips to the hospital, and gave her books and diets and things, and nothing really ever worked. And then I found out about a method called the Buteyko Breathing Method in the early 2000s, and went to study in New Zealand for 5 weeks in a year-long program, working on reservations there and learning more about breathing. My knowledge about breathing is cumulative over many different modalities: Continuum movement, Buteyko breathing, and also I just finished getting a certification as a breathing analyst from the Graduate School of Sciences and Health in Wyoming. So my lecture today and experiential piece is an accumulation of all those places that I've studied, plus my own body's ability to breathe. I often think of myself as a guide, teaching people how to pay attention to their own breathing, and that breathing is actually the teacher. If you are able to tune in, then you are able to find out more about how your body is working with breath, and how you feel about breath, and what you know about breath, and what breath wants to teach you. It is really basic, your teacher. I find that the two most important things about breath that we want to pay attention to are the connection to your breathing and therefore to yourself. So when you're connected to your breathing and you're connected to yourself as well. And the other one is the sense of continuity. So I thought, just so we can get a little bit of experiential in here, we'll take 2 minutes for you to kind of close your eyes. I'll do the same thing as you. And just use your attention to follow the movement. I'm not interested in whether you breathe right or wrong, because that really puts a restriction on your ability to breathe. As soon as your body thinks you're trying to make it work in a very particular way, it becomes really difficult to breathe. So mostly what I'm interested in is your relationship to the movement of your body and the movement of your breath. So you're developing a kind of a sense of intimacy with yourself by following this most essential process. So let's just take 2 minutes here. Close your eyes and just follow movement. The movement of your breath as it comes in, right at the tip of your nostrils. Breath is right under your nose. It's not something you have to reach out for very far. It's right under your nose. And you can probably feel as your breath comes in, there's a change in the volume inside of your lungs. And as a result, part of your body starts to move, to expand, to accommodate that change in volume and pressure. Just asking yourself here, what are you being told? What are you being shown? What kind of meaning do you make up about what you discover here? And I'll ask for answers from you when we come out of this. It's always interesting for a community of people to just breathe together. Take about 30 more seconds. And just when you're ready, just to slowly let your eyes drift open, and just even notice as your eyes drift open and you take little bites of light coming in, that it has an effect on your breathing. Everything affects the breathing. In our atmosphere, we have 3 gases, 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 0.03% carbon dioxide. We all know, do we not, that we're talking about climate change, and what is causing the climate change to happen? It's an increase in the carbon dioxide levels. So just that small little percentage of increasing in the carbon dioxide levels is causing huge global change all around the world. Some things are colder, some things are hotter, some places are windier, some places have more rain, more snow, but there's disturbances. They are natural disturbances, but they don't fit into how we live our human life. The same thing is true inside the body. Body is made up of oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide. If one of those gases goes off, then our breathing goes off, and everything in our body that is dependent upon healthy respiration starts to malfunction. So in terms of your health and your breathing, if your breathing is not balanced properly, then different things can happen inside of your health. We are born breathing in on our inhale, and we die going out on our exhale. Life and death at both ends of that cycle. Every breath we take in our lifetime, 20,000 of them a day, is a fractal of a life and a death. We breathe in, you could say that we are becoming manifest from the inspiration. So in most cosmologies, if you look at how the world began and how peoples began, it's always God blowing breath into the first human to bring him alive. So every time we breathe in, we are becoming manifest. It's a moment of creation. It is to be honored. It's sacred. It's like here I am once again in this life force, having a moment to enjoy what is here in this moment. And as I begin to breathe out, that moment is disappearing. And as I breathe out, and as Armin said, as I'm hanging out at the end of that exhale, I don't know if I'm going to take another breath. Do you know if you're going to take another breath? Does anybody know if they're going to take another breath? It's taken for granted. And so many people we know don't get that breath the next time around, and they didn't even know that that was coming. So to take breath in that vein of how sacred it is, I think drives a little bit more curiosity to what is going on and how we can value the ins and the outs. Because the other piece of that's really a great lesson that breathing has taught me is that everything comes and goes. We often think in our life that this way the situation is now is always going to be this way. And it doesn't, because it always changes. And it always changes by how you're breathing and how you feel on that inhale and how you feel on that exhale. The design of our interest in presence, like you do, like when you go back into your body and you feel the breath, is that I come out of fight and flight, I come out of freeze, I'm here with what's really here right now. Our imaginations have gotten so evolved that it's not just about whether the saber-toothed tiger is coming out to eat us, it's whether the imaginary saber-toothed tiger is coming out to eat us, and the nervous system doesn't know the difference between what it imagines and what's real. So if we can come back to, what do I really feel right now? What's here right now? My breathing, well, then I am present to my breathing, and I'm no longer in that conversation about fight and flight. But there is also a mechanism in the body that triggers the fight or flight, and it's mouth breathing. So if we just sit here and just notice a couple of things, good yawn, Armin. No mouth open on that yawn. He's a fast learner. Thank you. That's a good way to practice that when you're really working about not breathing through your mouth. When you're yawning, you keep your mouth shut. So where are we? So, all right, so just in this position that you're sitting in, just breathing in through your nose quietly, just noticing the movement again back to how your body's moving with breath. And looking at the state of that nervous system, like Sarah said, more relaxed. Megan said, just getting quieter inside yourself. Does it induce a little bit of parasympathetic response or a little quieting when you're paying attention to how your body's moving and breathing? And when you get a feeling for the effort and for the design of the nervous system, is it anxious or is it relaxed? Just take a couple of breaths in and out through your mouth and watch what happens in your nervous system. And then go back to nose breathing and seeing what happens there. And you can go back and forth. And then when you have some answers for yourself, just look up so I know you're done, and we'll have a little talk about that. What do we notice?
Feels terrible breathing through my mouth.
Feels terrible. And can you be more specific about what feels terrible about it?
I can tell you more easily what feels good about breathing through your nose.
Okay.
It feels more relaxed, and it feels more like you're in touch with your body. But when you're doing it through your mouth, it feels the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you.
It felt like raw, cold air coming in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. And your nervous system, did you notice
Oh,
it?
yeah, I wasn't comfortable at all.
Yeah. So, you know, we could say if we were actually doing something that we needed to be activated, we're activating the nervous system, but most of the time it starts to put us into our thinking body, and it creates a bit of fight or flight. So, if a grizzly bear was to walk into the door, what would be the first breath you would take? Right. And that would just trigger off everything. You wouldn't care about how pretty the building is anymore. Your vision would get really narrow. Your heart would race, your body might sweat, your digestion would turn off, your immune system would get overactive, and you'd be in full-on panic, fight or flight. The thing about the grizzly bear with fight or flight, you either could play dead, but it's not the moment to get present, except to what's happening there, but it is the moment to fight or flight or freeze. And so it really serves that. But on an everyday basis, it really doesn't serve that. So you trigger your own fight or flight by using your mouth for breathing. So you gotta be careful about that. So this is the way I like to come into having a breathable body. I find that the body really knows how it wants to breathe. And one of the misnomers I think out there in the breathing world is when people are told to breathe into an area. And I think it causes a tremendous amount of frustration because people don't always know how to breathe into something. So in my asking the breath, what about that? It says, no, I don't want you to breathe into this. I want you to breathe with this. So when I find that on the exhale, when you're breathing out, if you follow how your body is sending up impulses of sensation, at the bottom of the exhale, one will linger in your mind. One place in your body will linger in sensation. And so I consider that an invitation for the inhale, that place that is lingering in my awareness, I want to breathe with that awareness of that place when I take my next inhale. And I want to notice that place has some movement now. And then the next exhale, I want to see, is it the same place that my body's interested in moving? Or does a different sensation arise somewhere else? And I breathe with that sensation. And if I did that as a practice over time, more and more of my body is beginning to become engaged in the movement of my breathing. And so I'm beginning to open more and more for breath. I don't have to force it. My body's showing me, breathe with this area, and more of you will breathe. And the more of me that breathes, the less effort I have to use to get breath in. So I see that you're quiet. I see that some of you are actually doing this now. So I just want you to see how that feels to you. Can you report a little bit, if you're ready to?
Could you tell us how to do it again?
Yeah, so I will. So when you breathe out, as you're breathing out, as the exhale is leaving you, there's a sort of the descent that Helen spoke to. And you're starting to feel yourself more in the relationship to gravity. A place in my body sends up a signal. It draws my attention. My awareness goes there. Because my awareness went there, I want to breathe my next inhale with awareness in that location. I'm considering that a signal from my body that says, I need some movement that comes with breath in this area. It's being held too long. And I notice, oh yeah, breath just followed where my awareness was. So what I felt right off the bat was, oh, across the back of my shoulders up here. I just noticed when I did that to speak to you. And I noticed a spreading in my shoulders. So then I breathed out again. Shoulders dropped. Now I kind of feel it in my spine between my shoulders. So now I'm just going to keep that in my awareness. And now that's moving. And so I feel a whole lifting going on in my inhale that I wasn't aware of before. So the information that it comes with me paying attention to my body and feeling my body in so many different ways brings me into my current experience of me being in my body. And the more of me that has to go through the process of receiving the movement of breath, the slower I breathe. And it's not so much that it's longer, I'm just waiting for all of it to be included in the phenomenon of in and out. So my experience over time has been sort of analogous to meditating and looking through a candle. And the idea of looking in a candle when you're meditating is eventually you go through the eye of the needle and the whole universe opens up to you. And so this process of just following your sensations and breathing with sensations eventually will turn into, oh my gosh, I'm not breathing anymore, my body is breathing me. That conversation between me breathing my body and my body breathing me. This is the road to allowing my body just to take its own breath and me being totally out of the way. Because more of it is, it's not being held, it's being allowed to move with breath. And the more of me that moves with breath and the more of me that is nourished by the movement of breath, the healthier my system is. It's in a relaxed place, it's being nourished by oxygen, and it's being nourished by movement. So there's a unity and a continuity and a wholeness to it that breath is inviting by being touched everywhere. So it's being touched by breath from the inside out.